Okay. Well, there's a million reasons why I love Will Smith, but this is a keeper. This is actually good for fucking society, and I'm glad Chris Rock took that in great stride as a man too. Both of them great leaders of the black community, and it's just it wasn't. Of course, it wasn't the best situation, but it goes to show and it goes to bring out the best in people because both of them did the best that they could do with that situation. Chris Rock, a great comedian, and when you're used to being a great comedian, a funny, intelligent person, very intelligent person, you're used to like grabbing what you can grab and rolling it into your act and developing and working on technique. And he did what you're used to. I'm a funny dude too, so like when I grab a bunch of shit, like I roll it into something, and then sometimes you say things by accident. Now, of course, we weren't looking at it as a level 10 situation about the joke on wife or whatever, but usually don't make jokes on wife, but they're both members of the black community and so on and so forth, and they're both up in the same area of the black establishment, but it was great to see Chris Rock take it in stride. Like he just sucked it up, kept moving on, and went back to being professional, which is just fucking great and amazing. But by the end of it, like I still can't discount the normal rules of engagement and ghetto-ness and so on and so forth. I'm not saying this for anyone else except for common class people who understand the courtesy and the exceptionalism of both men. But really, in the end, I only have two things to say. Why is this good for society? First off, there's way too much shit in life where people don't defend their families and their wives enough. And I think Will Smith, in a way, was classy and was standing up for the adversity that men in general go through, where like you get in the clutch sometimes and everybody makes mistakes, but when you're in the clutch, when it's your wife, you shouldn't hesitate to defend her. And every once in a while when something like that happens, or when I'm with a chick and something like that happens, like there's still that moment of time where you're like, you laugh and then you wait a second, that's my wife. And then you start realizing you have to defend her and shit. And then like, this part where like you see his wife kind of like curl up, kind of react to it. And then this look on her face of just like, my evening is fucking ruined. And there's just nothing wrong with the faux pas that Chris Rock made. I mean, in the end, it's a faux pas. It's a bad evening. But as a man, you like collect yourself. You look at your wife in this expression and you're like, if you don't say or do anything, you're going home that night with that defeated ass feeling like something happened to your wife and you didn't stand up. You didn't stand up. And then all of a sudden, and like Will Smith go over there and smack him. So so exactly what I'm feeling as a man. And when I'm sitting, look at him laughing and his wife is just like recoiling. And then you're going to have to look back at that as a man and be like, damn, I didn't step up for my wife. And then I think once he like sealed his way, his actual concern, kind of conferred with his wife and then like examined himself. And then it was just like, bam, the smack hurled. And this is the parallel. This is the paradox. This is the conundrum. Some of you look at these parts of life as like, oh no, look at him. Dude, I look at that and the same edge of the sword, I'm thinking, what if I didn't? What if he didn't? And I don't mean to be disgusting. I don't mean to be far off on the edge of everything. But truly, look at this. Get used to it. None of this shame and recoil. Like, can you live that slap will earl throughout the echoes of time? And all I see is that, yes, the man stood up for his wife at the end of the day. No fucking regrets. No fucking regrets. You gotta, don't fear that. Don't fear anything, respect it. Just respect it, learn from it, and move on. The shit's dope on both sides of the mirror. And because both of them were a presence of growth between two strong men, the second thing is, Why 10 years from the Oscars? Like, lessen that shit down to like 3, you know? Like, you get like 3 rounds to recover or some shit, or like, 2 rounds or something, but like 10 years, a little strong. Especially for two guys with the presence of mind to actually like reflect in the moment as stronger individuals. And like, I don't know if it wasn't for both of their maturity level, because Chris Rock could have cried like a little bitch and then like made us all little bitches, because like even if he reacted badly, it would have ended up being like what supports, like, put it this way, it makes more people abuse the rights of freedom of speech and bait people into more problems, which just isn't an ethical positive. But because both were mature, because both responded maturely, and even with ethical comedy and those lines being blurred, you get better as a comedian and so much and so forth. Chris Rock is the best, but I think he's the best comedian we've had ever for a long time. I still think he's the best, because faux pas occur in anything. Like, you're gonna do something 100% of the time, and like 1 to 2% of the time you say something foul. Good for him. Like, you know what I mean? Every once in a while, that's a very good error rate for someone who's such a top comedian. But 10 years for what we benefited off of growth from that on both sides and shit, like, whatever. Like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Shit. No, I don't think 10 years, but like 3 years, maybe like dial it back to, I wouldn't have done it at all. But like, like if it's going to be 10 years, 3 years, because even when with internet personalities or even just memes or whatever you're doing on the internet, you always have to think about the distinguishment, because I love my nerd people. I count Chris Rock as a nerd. He's too funny and too smart to not be a nerd. And the only thing with being a nerd on the internet or anything socially is you have to have like a double or triple filter to everything you say or do, especially with all the hypnoxious shit that I do. I still try to like, really keep it low down, like, like not like, be so, I don't know, pointed about my shit. Because it's really easy to make faux pas or to find yourself not even like doing anything proper. You like start falling into just like a troll for like no reason, and it's just like every second I'm like, man, I just want to make sure I'm not a fucking troll or a goddamn hater. And even the when you come up with material that's gold, we're not talking about like Chris Rock or comedians. I'm talking about like even on the internet with memes and John. You got to remember that like you speaking to people's fates and shit. So when you like do something, is it 3 jokes away? Like if I make a joke about a prostitute, which I never have, but it's one of those fears, because it's just like, even if you're doing stuff for other industries, you still look at it and you're like, you better be 3 steps away from things ideologically. I'm not talking about Chris Rock or anything. I'm talking about on just like an unrelated normal note. So when I make sure I do things, I have like an extra 3 filters and shit. And I only mean this to keep people from hating or being trolls or whatever the fuck, because that's like the biggest disgusting thing. But like, it's not difficult not to, for me anyway. And it's like, well, you have to be 3 steps away, because it's if you make some joke about lifestyles and the backlash only helps out like one type of people, and then by the end of it, it only leads to other things. Like you don't know most of the time you don't know what society's going through. So even when like the argument is made about hoes, my social standards don't count. So like, for me, it's like, when I'm making that joke, that bitch has somewhere every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all of those things, only has $250 worth of jokes at any time. 16 to, well, no, maybe more. So maybe like 25 to 250. We're talking about averages. We're not talking about anything I know in life. I'm not talking about anyone I know. But, only between like 25 and $250 worth of jokes in her fucking budget of life. And I say that because if you make too many jokes for men, and you make too many jokes for women, which is still different, but if you make too many jokes for men in that way, even normal women who aren't, which is almost even worse because, whatever. Anyways, but long story short, they can only afford $250 worth of fucking jokes. And we're not talking about people on the internet famous. We're not talking about any of these other fucking things. We're just saying that you have to keep those things in mind. So even when you're going to be a great stand-up comedian or whatever, or other policies in life about jokes, memes, internet shit, even if you just make general aesthetic junk like I do, you still have to keep weird little things in mind. And by the end of it, there are no jokes left over. It's just like a lot of buffing and enjoying life. Like you play a video game and you're a fucking healer. You're expecting to be buffing people and fucking casting spells and shit. Anything else, I don't defer to. I don't give a shit about it. But like put it this way, $250 worth of jokes isn't much that I'm playing about. Like, of course I take everything seriously. And that's the common denominator of women. Now, the other women that, like, they make jokes about women that are normal and they put them down to the rung level of just, like, in their dreams, wishing that bitch was giving it up for $250 or whatever the fuck. It doesn't end up as a normal playing field. Like TikTok hoes. They ain't no hoes. None of those women are hoes. And they're all well kept and shit. Let's say that. And like their husbands are like, well, it feels like they're being paid 24/7 and living with them. But that's just, an easier way of grasping the relationship for themselves. Well, I'm not talking about the women, but the men in those perspectives. So it doesn't offend me that much, but it's just one of those things that I look at life and I contend with about, especially about like the prospects of different philosophies or psychologicals between all those different classes of people and shit, and what I donate to life in a very rinky-dink manner, like my little Homer Simpson website with all the wing-ding belts. I don't know. I don't give a shit. It's just the only thing that I can do that won't like have a inherent disease or a backlash to them, so I don't. And there's a lot of things that I just don't do. Plus dealing with romantic people, because even if you're going to be James Bond by yourself, like there'll always be like 2 minutes in life where you have to afford being around a couple, and it's just best to like wine and dine them and let them be romantic on their own time, or let them come to those extremes on their own, especially if you care about them having a good time. And I'm one of those people that prefers to be single, damn near binary. Not the way I dress or do things, but just like my attitude on life is just like, I'd rather be a machine and do all the things that I have to do rather than worry about my independent crisis of how romantic and deep that I am. And if you're that deep, you are like a drug. And if you're like a drug like that, get high by yourself, because it's just better for the constitution of the world. And I do those things for them. Not that I'm a complete raving lunatic or psychopath, and parts of me are, but like I hope in good nature, because I've raised my standards to reflect to what I give back, only a premium, but all in good fun. But a situation like that between Will Smith and Chris Rock really like leads me back to the reflection of like, if I care about them romantically and I see those moments, like if I'm not going to have love and I'm always going to be a pit of technological inside of my heart and I'm always going to be a robot monster or some shit. You see people like Jada and Will and like Beyonce and Jay-Z, and you think, oh man, that's the slice of life. Now, if I had it that way from those type of people, you just take the smack. You take the smack. You love them. You're the waiter. You're the fucking bellhop. You just take the smack because it's just like so romantic to believe in that. I really worship both. I really worship them. And I worship a lot of people. But when it comes down to it, Chris Rock did the right thing. Like, just like a great patron. Great patron. And I wish I could do more for you guys, them, and everyone else in life. But like, by the end of it, I'm sure what I have to offer later down the roads will be profuse. But I don't know. I just hope that everybody has a good time. Because sometimes I get the psychological aspects and the empathy and the euphemism of it all, and I realize what it is truly to give myself. But if you look at that as a sociological experiment, it truly is a good reflection for us both. The nerdy, smart guys, the social class, the great social pillars and shit, the romantic couples. It was nothing but a complete emphasis on what brings us all to a higher level. So I don't know, 10 years off the Oxus for that. Just make it like 3. But and yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's more like 2 years. No, I guess like what, like 2 years. It doesn't have to carry around that psychological, like, whatever, for like, a year and a half or whatever. Yeah, because it's not a fucking commercial. Of course, Yeah, but it's still better. Like, because if you shame them for that, it's like not growth. Shaming is not growth.